Mr. Chairman, representative of the Inter-American Division, officers of the Caribbean Union Conference, fellow administrators, delegates, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As we reflect on the financial landscape and our stewardship during this time, we are reminded that the plan of redemption began and ends with a gift, and we must continue in the same spirit. The same sacrificial love that secured our salvation should dwell in all who partake of the heavenly gift. The Apostle Peter admonishes, as every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. And Jesus himself said, freely ye have received, freely give. Ellen White in Life Sketches echoes this principle of faithful stewardship, stating, every dollar of our means should be considered as the Lord's, not ours, and as a precious trust from God to us, not to be wasted for needless indulgences, but carefully used in the cause of God, in the work of saving men and women from ruin. This quadrennial was marked by significant financial challenges. The global economy experienced considerable volatility. First, with the sharp recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, followed by rising inflation and ongoing uncertainty. The lingering effects of the pandemic slowed economic growth and contributed to reduced in-person attendance at churches across the conference, which naturally impacted our income. Yet, our God remained faithful, and for this we give him all the praise. Along with the steadfast support and faithfulness of our approximately 15,000 members, God provided the resources necessary for us to carry out the sacred mission to which we have been called. By God's grace, the conference continues to grow, both in membership and in financial strength. As a result, it is reasonable to conclude that we operated within a fair and stable financial position during the 2021-2024 period. Despite the economic turbulence, we recognize that all we have received is from God, and it is our privilege to return to him in service and sacrifice. May we continue to give as we have received, with generosity, faith, and gratitude. It is with delight and gratitude that I present this report on funds received and disbursed during the period 2021 to 2024.
Tide income. During the period under review 2021 to 2024, the North Caribbean Conference began with a membership of 15,003 and concluded with 15,478, an encouraging growth in membership. Over this time, members contributed a total of $31,666,751 in Tide. This reflects an increase of $732,351.54, or 2.37% over the previous period's total of $30,934,399.46. A detailed breakdown of this data is presented in Table 1 and visually represented in Figure 1. Table 2 compares Tide income by area with the 2017 to 2020 period. Figure 2 illustrates the distribution of Tide across the quadrennium. Further, Table 3 outlines the required deductions made to the wider church organizations and institutions. Online giving. We continue to use our online giving platform, Tidely, a cloud-based funds collection application and online giving solution, which was adopted during the pandemic. The platform accounted for 2% of the total Tide collected, or $669,706.98, compared to $60,008.06 in the previous quadrennium, as depicted in Figure 3. Mission offering. In addition to Tide, the conference remitted $1,835,584.76 in mission offerings to the Inter-American Division, a modest increase of $11,319.07 or 0.62% over the previous quadrennium's total of $1,824,265.69. This is detailed in Table 4 and illustrated in Figure 4. This amount represented 5.80% of total tied income, closely aligned with the percentage of the previous quadrennium as shown in Table 5 and Figure 5. Additionally, global offerings during this period accounted for 28.98% of tied income, again consistent with prior trends as reflected in Table 6 and Figure 6. Working capital and liquidity. The working policy of the Inter-American Division of the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists recommends that working capital and liquidity be maintained at levels equivalent to 6 months and 3 months of core operating expenses, respectively. Prior to 2021, these benchmarks were expressed as percentages, with a minimum of 100% required for both. At the close of 2020, the North Caribbean Conference held $1,360,401 in cash and $6,772,786 in total liquid assets. This reflected a liquidity ratio of 173% and a working capital ratio of 143%. Both are comfortably above the reference policy minimum. By the end of 2024, the conference's cash balance stood at $638,705, and total liquid assets amounted $6,064,794, a 10.4% decrease from 2020. These figures translated to 8.4 months of liquidity, and the working capital stood at 10.1 months. Despite economic volatility during the quadrennium, the conference continued to operate well within policy guidelines. These results are illustrated in Figures 7 and 8. Accounts receivable. Table 7 reflects the total accounts receivable net of the allowance for doubtful accounts for the years 2021 to 2024. It includes a detailed breakdown of receivables from employees, churches, subsidiaries, and the wider Seventh-day Adventist organization. At the end of December 2020, the accounts receivable total was $4,248,273 compared to $4,290,817 as of December 31, 2024, less provision for doubtful accounts. Included in this amount is $3,510,167.35 held in the Caribbean Union Revolving Fund, which was reclassified in 2017 from investments to accounts receivable, citing compliance with international accounting standards. Current liabilities. As of the end of the quadrennium, the North Caribbean Conference current liabilities totaled $1,229,528, of which $537,152 represented agency or trust funds held on behalf of other entities. These liabilities reflect the conference's ongoing obligations, which are carefully managed to ensure continued financial stability. Ingathering. Over the 2021 to 2024 quadrennium, in gathering efforts raised $670,364.65, representing a 3.60 decrease of $24,909.21, less than $695,353.86 raised in the previous quadrennium. Table 8 represents the annual collections alongside the corresponding goals for each year, while Figure 9 provides a visual representation of the funds collected across the 4-year period. In adherence to the working policy, the Caribbean Union Conference received 30% of the goal, while the Inter-American Division received 10% of the total funds collected. Local churches received 90% of the amount raised above their assigned goals, which was applied to vital ministries such as education, welfare, disaster relief. The distribution and use of ingathering funds are detailed in Table 9 and visualized in Figure 10. Conference Development Fund. The Conference Development Fund continued to play a key role in funding infrastructural and mission-related projects. As of December 31, 2024, the fund has received $7,368,919.24, of which $6,693,775.59 has been dispersed. See Table 10. Table 11 outlines contributions received during the 2021 to 2024 period, while Table 12 provides a detailed breakdown of how these funds were allocated. The CDF continues to support conference-wide development initiatives with careful oversight and accountability. Education. The North Caribbean Conference remains deeply committed to Christian education, viewing it as a cornerstone of spiritual character development for our youth. During the quadrennium, $6,722,094 was allocated toward education, a 3.2% or $209,029 increase over the $6,513,065 spent in the previous period. These funds covered monthly subsidies to our 5 Adventist schools, as well as related expenses such as staff medicals, insurance premiums, employing entities portion, Social Security and Medicare contributions, education assistance, year-end gifts, and sustentation payments to the Inter-American Division. This amount represented 29% of net tied income, exceeding the limits recommended by the working policy. These policies cap tied use for primary education at 30% of total salaries and allowances of principals and teachers, and secondary education at the total salary and allowance cost of Bible teachers and principals. A detailed summary is shown in Table 13 and illustrated in Figure 11. Despite the increase in funding, education remains one of our most significant financial challenges. Schools in the United States Virgin Islands continue to face low enrollment and financial strain. At the end of 2024, the combined debt of the USVI schools stood at $259,753.93, an increase of $95,028.84 from the $164,725.09 reported in the last quadrennium. Encouragingly, the schools remain committed to reducing this debt and have sought to make payments toward its reduction. In addition to operational support, the conference also allocated $48,577.07 to support educational excellence and special initiatives. This included awards for valedictorian, salutatorian, and subject-specific achievements in math, English, Bible, and science, as well as miscellaneous donations such as a $10,000 contribution to the University of the Southern Caribbean's building project. These distributions are summarized in Table 14. Further to the above mentioned, the conference also provided need-based and merit-based scholarships amounting in $55,805 for high school students as summarized in Table 14. These scholarships were awarded through the Silton Brown William Ham Scholarship Fund, which is funded by 1/4 of the annual interest earned from our Curve investment. Welfare and disaster. During the 2021 to 2024 quadrennium, the conference disbursed $135,911.24 from the Welfare Fund to support individuals and various causes in need, and contributed an additional $46,034 toward disaster relief to the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Mission and Haiti after their disasters. The year-by-year distribution is detailed in Table 15. Income and expenses. The primary source of income for the North Caribbean Conference remained tide contributions, supported by smaller revenue streams. Expenses during the period were incurred across several key areas, including employee-related expenses, administrative and general operations, departmental spending, and other operating expenses. Table 16 and Figure 12 depict the actual dollar amounts and percentages of operating income received from various sources. Table 17 and Figure 13 illustrate the actual expenditures and percentage breakdown of each category during the quadrennium. Figure 14 presents the actual financial figures including gains and losses over the period versus the previous quadrennium, while Figure 15 provides a comparative graphical view of earned income. $27,123,839 versus expenses $27,363,637 for the current quadrennium. Evangelism. In a letter to ministers and physicians, Ellen G. White, 1906, wrote, "There is an aggressive work to be done. Evangelistic work opening the scriptures to others, warning men and women of what is coming upon the world, is to occupy more and still more of the time of God's servants." Page 2. This call to intentional, persistent evangelism remains as relevant today as it was then. During the quadrennium, a total of $472,000.70 was disbursed in support of both pastoral and lay-led evangelistic campaigns across the territory outlined in Table 18. These efforts resulted in approximately 1,554 souls being added to the kingdom, including 101 baptisms from the impactful Impact 2024 GC and CC collaboration held in St. Croix. Indeed, evangelism remains the heartbeat of our mission, driving every strategy, every sacrifice, and every step forward in service to God's calling. One of the highlights of the quadrennium was the powerful mission trip collaboration between the Treasury team of the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists and the North Caribbean Conference. It exemplified an aspect of our session's theme, aligning action with mission. This initiative was led by the GC Treasurer, Elder Paul Douglas, and coordinated by the Associate Treasurer, Elder Joe Pear, along with his assistant, Sister Tia Brantley. Reflecting on the purpose of the initiative, Elder Pear remarked, "Normally we see that Treasury is about saying no and focusing on budgets, but now we want to focus on what is the main thing, which is bringing souls into the kingdom." With this renewed perspective, the mission trip went far beyond finance, placing evangelism, service, and community impact at the heart of its efforts. At the center of the mission trip was an evangelistic series themed Impact 2024, Your Journey to Joy, which incorporated a strong health component facilitated by professionals from Loma Linda University Health alongside local medical personnel. The event featured powerful evangelists, singers, Bible workers, and digital evangelism teams working together to reach souls for Christ. The mission also brought tangible blessings to the community through several GC-led initiatives: the refurbishment of the basketball court at the Central SDA Church, dynamic children and youth programs, and a vibrant mural project at the St. Croix SDA School. These efforts not only revitalized physical spaces, but also inspired spiritual renewal, standing as a powerful testament to what is possible when we align our actions with the mission of God's kingdom. Legal expense. Legal costs remained a significant line item for the conference. Over the 2021 to 2024 period, $202,963.23 was spent on legal-related matters, more than double the amount expended, $91,994.73 in the previous quadrennium. A substantial portion of these expenses, 74%, was related to the processing of visas and work permits for employees and missionaries serving across the territory. Details of these expenditures over the 4-year period can be found in Table 19. Healthcare expense. Healthcare costs continue to represent a significant portion of the conference's budget. Over the course of the quadrennium, a total of $1,767,487.84 was expended in this area. Table 20 presents a detailed breakdown of these costs by year, region, and institution. Property insurance. Property insurance costs rose significantly over the quadrennium. The total premiums for 2021 to 2024 amounted to $1,556,776.24 and reflected a 68% increase from $926,798.19 in the previous quadrennium. The conference's portion of these premiums also grew substantially by 90%, from $230,482.65 to $437,870.22. This upward trend highlights the increasing financial burden of maintaining adequate insurance coverage. A detailed comparison of the 2017 to 2020 and 2021 to 2024 premium payments is provided in Table 21. Capital improvements. Throughout the 2021 to 2024 quadrennium, the conference undertook several capital improvement projects, focusing primarily on the renovation of rental properties and manses. The expenditures, $530,902.92, related to these projects, along with the income generated, $450,354.41, are summarized in Table 22. Currently, the manses on St. Croix and St. Thomas are being rented, generating valuable non-tied income. Additional income is also being received from the East End property and the newly renovated property in Grove Place, St. Croix. In 2022, the manse in St. Eustatius was demolished due to its deteriorated condition. Plans are underway to rebuild a structure that aligns more closely with the vision and standards of the North Caribbean Conference. On St. Croix, land at number 87A Estate Grove Place and the property in Enfield Green were cleared and prepared for future development. These initiatives are expected to significantly increase the conference's stream of non-tide revenue, supporting long-term financial sustainability.
While the North Caribbean Conference successfully navigated the challenges of the Quadrennium and achieved significant milestones to the honor and glory of God, this is not a time for complacency. Going forward, responsible financial stewardship, strategic budgeting, and mission-focused spending must remain central to our operations in order to maintain financial stability, sustain staff benefits, including livable wages and retirement bonuses, keep our schools open, and continue to fund the main thing, the SDA Church's mission. As we continue to walk faithfully in our calling, the administration and executive committee must remain diligent in managing reserves wisely and prioritizing the allocation of resources towards the church's highest purpose, fulfilling the Great Commission found in Matthew 28:18-20 and reflected in our mission statement. Go and make disciples of all nations. Let us remain faithful, focused, and vigilant as we move forward together in mission. As we conclude this 4-year term, I pause with a heart full of gratitude. First and foremost, I give thanks to God for His providential leading, wisdom, and sustaining grace throughout this journey. I am deeply grateful to the wider organizations for their unwavering support through their wise counsel, advice, and encouragement. Special appreciation goes to Pastor Bertie Henry, my immediate supervisor at the union level, whose invaluable support, prayers, and encouragement have been a great blessing. To my fellow administrators, Pastors Desmond James and Wilmot James, thank you for your collaboration and partnership over the years. A special word of appreciation to Pastor Desmond James, our president, who will be retiring at the end of this term. Your leadership, support, and vision have left a lasting impact. Thank you for your service and guidance. To our dedicated church treasurers and their teams, I sincerely appreciate your hard work and commitment. Gratitude is also extended to our directors, pastors, Bible workers, teachers, and all staff for your vital contributions. I acknowledge and thank every individual who served on our committees. Your time, talent, and dedication have not gone unnoticed. A heartfelt thanks to the entire Treasury staff, past and present. Elder Oscar Sanchez, former Assistant Treasurer, gave appreciable contributions before his departure in 2023. Sister Jacqueline John, former Administrative Assistant, who now serves the St. Croix Seventh-day Adventist School. Brother Henry Teet, our reliable courier, who will retire at the end of September. May your next chapter be fulfilling. Sister Joyanne Esdale, who joined as Chief Accountant in 2023 and continues to serve faithfully. Sister Opal Rose, our diligent payroll and accounts clerk. Sister Nikema Kelly, who began part-time in 2022 and now serves full-time as cashier and receptionist. Thank you for stepping up. Sister Delia King, our dedicated auditor. Sister Odisha Abraham, our newest team member. Welcome and thank you for your early contributions. Thank you to our janitorial staff, Sister Jane Lancico and Brother Joseph Simmons, whose behind-the-scenes work supports everything we do. Finally, to the faithful members of the North Caribbean Conference, thank you for your support, trust, and the opportunity to serve. It has been a privilege and an honor. As we look to the future with hope and renewed purpose, may we be revived and revitalized, aligning every action with our God-given mission. Let our stewardship reflect our faith, our service reflect our calling, and our decisions be guided by the vision to advance God's work with integrity and excellence. Together, may we move forward with clarity, unity, and commitment, empowered by the Spirit, grounded in purpose, and focused on the mission that binds us all. To God be the glory.